At dawn in 1985, the rattle of milk bottles and the ring of a single hallway phone stitched British neighbourhoods together. Today, those small routines and the trust they built have vanished almost without a trace. How did ordinary life, once so tangible, slip through our fingers? To find the answer, we will step inside the forgotten heart of everyday Britain. Before the sun crested the rooftops, a gentle clatter of glass and the soft whine of an electric milk float signaled the start of another morning. Along quiet streets, the milkman moved with practiced ease, swapping empty bottles for full ones in a single motion. Each crate, cold, dew-slick, and heavy with returnable glass, made its own chorus. The clink of bottles, the tap of metal on stone. A bell rung to announce his arrival at the end of a cul-de-sac. Most rounds began as early as 4 or 5 in the morning, the milk float trundling at no more than 10 miles per hour, headlights cutting through the mist. Notes tucked in bottlenecks saying 2 pints today, please spoke to a trust that ran deeper than any receipt. For many, the day's first conversation was a quiet greeting exchanged over a doorstep. Coins pressed into a chapped hand. News of the neighbourhood passed in brief. These rituals thrived in a world without big fridges or 24-hour shops, when fresh milk on the step was as certain as the morning itself. Yet, as supermarkets spread and home refrigeration became the norm, the familiar ring of the milk float faded, and with it, the milkman saw place in the daily rhythm of British life. What was once an everyday exchange, simple and human, became something remembered, a small ritual that defined community and that most of us now only recall in memory. A single phone line in the hallway, fixed to its little table, set the boundaries for every conversation. Calls were rationed by cost and by earshot. No secrets from the family, no long chats without a watchful glance at the clock. Outside, the red phone box stood at the corner, coins clinking through the slot, the receiver heavy and cold, your breath fogging the glass. In 1985, British Telecom began quietly thinning out these boxes, citing fewer calls and rising costs as more households got their own line. At the same time, the answer phone tape hissed in the background, recording messages with a mechanical whir. Most messages were still scribbled on scraps by whoever answered first. Down the street, the corner shopkeeper kept a ledger under the counter, a handwritten tick book for credit on bread, milk or cigarettes until Friday's pay. Trust ran on a handshake and a running total, the sweet jars glinting behind the till. Supermarkets with their bright aisles and cash-only rules soon made these small favours, and the shopkeeper's quiet watchfulness less common with each passing year. Friday night meant a trip to the video shop, shelves packed with glossy VHS sleeves, each one a promise of adventure or a laugh. Families crowded the narrow aisles, debating over which film to take home. No second chances, no pause or rewind, just a single choice to fill the weekend. The shop owner, sleeves rolled up, kept a wary eye on the racks and a list of banned titles tucked behind the counter, thanks to the new 1984 Video Recordings Act. Police sometimes came by, checking for nasties, tapes with names whispered about at school, now strictly off limits. Back home, the tape clunked into the VCR. Everyone squeezed onto the sofa, snacks at the ready. With only 3 or 4 channels on the TV, and no way to record, Saturday mornings belonged to live kids shows, cartoons, pop stars, and phone-ins, watched in real time, pajamas and all. If you missed it, you missed it. By the end of the decade, big chains would swallow the independents, and the familiar faces behind the counter would vanish, leaving only the memory of those communal nights and the thrill of the rewind button snapping back to the start. A single press of the remote's teletext button brought up the CE-fax grid, with blocky headlines, rainbow bars, and news that loaded one slow page at a time. For many, it was a morning ritual, checking the weather, the football score, or the tithe listings, all in chunky blue and yellow squares. But the living room was not the only place where screens flickered to life. In bedrooms across Britain, cassette tapes whirred and hissed as new mixtapes took shape, recorded off the radio, painstakingly timed to catch the start of a favorite song, each one labeled in biro on a folded inlay card. Passing a mixtape felt like handing over a secret, a message and a mood, a crush hidden in the track order. And just down the hall, the glow of a microcomputer lit up the wallpaper. The cassette drive screeched as games loaded stripe by stripe, and lines of basic code appeared, typed out by hand. Some kids wrote their own programs, sold them by mail order, and dreamed of seeing their names in Crash or Your Spectrum. These were the first bedroom coders, swapping code and ideas in a pre-internet world. Whether reading news in block graphics, sharing tapes, or writing games, everyday life was quietly splitting between shared browsing and private creation. Both roads led, in their own way, toward Britain's digital future. Inside the office, a steady clatter of typewriters filled the air, each keystroke echoing across rows of typists in the typing pool. Fingers stained faintly blue from carbon paper, they worked through stacks of forms, the sharp scent of Tipex lingering as mistakes were blotted out and retyped. Every document meant a fresh sheet, each letter a careful ritual. No second chances, no quick edits. Meanwhile, children poured into playgrounds, pockets stuffed with string and the hardest conker they could find. There were no goggles, just the crack of chestnuts and the sting of a near miss, the rules made up on the spot. At break, the tuck shop beckoned, crumpled dinner tickets traded for penny sweets, crisps, and a panda pop if you were lucky. By the end of the day, both office and playground ran on routine and trust. But the first signs of new rules, healthier snacks, and stricter supervision were already on the horizon. Evenings belonged to the PUB, where the air hung thick with a blue-grey haze and the tang of tobacco clung to every surface. Regulars nursed their pints beneath a drift of smoke, voices softened by the fog, ashtrays crowding every table. Cigarettes were as much a part of the ritual as the beer itself, passed around, tapped out, stubbed and relit, with no thought to the warnings now printed on every packet. Amid laughter and low conversation, few questioned the cost to their health. The haze was a social glue, binding strangers and friends until closing time. This nightly fog would linger for years yet, but the evidence against it was already stacking up, waiting for a future when the air would clear for good. Memory softens what progress erases. As everyday life grows ever more digital and distant, the smallest routines reveal what we risk losing next. What is your most vivid memory from 1985?